saver. So, I take you through a little bit of that. When I first ran, I filed first time and run for the state house in '98. My father actually passed away like 2 to 3 months afterwards. So, I talk about my faith. Not necessarily a challenge to my faith, but it was one of those things where it just kind of hits you. And really having that first time that I ran to do the door-to-door was almost therapy, for me in that regards, because I was getting out, I was talking to people, and so it does. The book leads you through all that, almost my entire life. Now, I probably left out, not intentionally, but I probably left out. You could have made the book 3 times as long, but when you cover that long a span, 25 years, sometimes you end up forgetting things. I even tell the joke. This was serious. When I was elected auditor, the second time, I was the oldest currently serving constitutional officer at that Kentucky constitutional officer at that time by 10 years. So I told the joke. I kind of adjusted one that my older brother gave me. The other day I was looking in the mirror and my wife comes by and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Look at that. I look so old. I look so tired." I tell you one good thing about myself. One good thing. So she looks and she thinks and she looks and she thinks. And finally she says, "Well, at least your eyesight's
Oh my! You know what? I'm just thinking the name of the book is actually not bad. That would be actually a great podcast. I could think of almost every time there's an issue or whatever, Papa's point of view, and running a series on that just alone. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny you should mention that, because now that I'm at the Commonwealth Policy Center, they do a podcast.
Sure.
But they have said that in addition to they're going to let me record my book, do an audio of my book. I saw Scott Jennings a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's like, "I don't want to read it. I want to hear it in your voice." So,
Do a series, you go to chapter at a time,
Yeah. And then, but they also said I could do a podcast. So once I kind of get my feet wet and situated in there, we're going to try to work to get a podcast going as well with that.
Well, Mike, you'll have to let us know. We'll put that up on our site too to help keep visibility and stuff too. So, pat the back of those, pat the back, right? So keep going. Don't bite the hands that feed you. So, I've always learned informative things. I think the work you've done as auditor and all of the years of service to Kentucky. I'm a noob. Everybody picks on me all the time because I'm a noob, but I'm not a noob. I keep trying to tell people I've done a lot of research and I've lived in a lot of places, and trust me when I tell you, there's a lot of far worse places than where you could be living in Kentucky. Trust me.
When we're young, I'll tell you my story a little bit. As when you're young, you think, okay, I'm going to get out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do. But you know what? Once you get out there and you see what else is out there, the lure.
Grass is not always greener on the other side.
The lure of home. It's almost the story of the prodigal son without all the sinful stuff within but that fact of coming home, you can always come home. You can always come home, which is an awesome feeling.
And don't get me wrong, I have no qualms about any of the places I've gotten to come. We've always made the most out of every experience because we feel like we were placed there by God's hand. We've never been the ones that, I guess you would, vacation assignments. We never had those. I've been north of the Mason-Dixon line almost my entire career in the Army. I've never had a warm assignment other than the 1 year at El Paso, Texas. So I guess you can't say that's a double negative. I have been south, but I was for school. And it's like, you're there to learn. You're not there to do anything else. But learn, and that was for the academy. And then, whoop, you're back north again.
In El Paso, no offense to my El Paso friends out there, I'll actually be going there in a
hot.
couple of weeks. It's hot. And it's and you're like 10 hours away from everything, so it's basically
that depends on what your interests are. But there's cool volcanoes around there to go around. The desert is an amazing
stuff. But if you want to go visit something like a sporting event or something like that, if you want city type life, you're 10 hours away from any city.
That is a fact. That is a fact. But it's beautiful. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I'm ready to get back to
Same.
as you say. And of course, yeah, I had a great opportunity, had an opportunity to do some training for
Mm-hmm.
comic books and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Look at some of the comic books. I had literally printed
Mm-hmm.
on several one shot and some of the ones like that. I don't know if you've seen any of
Mm-hmm.
those.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not consistent, but
There was
just
a. You missed out. There was a whole lot that came up in an auction not too long ago that we saw that this gentleman had kept them for years, but his kids didn't want nothing to do with it, and they were ready to just get rid of it, so they put it up on Facebook.
Yeah.
The entire collection. I mean, he had like stuff that if you were a comic book collector, you would die for, but all they did was put it up on Facebook Marketplace, and I was like, I shared it with some folks that I know that are in that business, and you'd be surprised how much the stuff goes for as far as money wise. Ah, okay. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No.
Right, right.
Do you have your photo for your acting career? The one, your proof? No, just kidding.
The headshots. Get your
Headshot. Okay.
So we've been talking a little. We talked about your book and such, but tell us what you're doing with Commonwealth Policy Center now.
Mm-hmm.
What is your role?
Mm-hmm.
Working to help connect with donors, to help raise some money to continue the mission in
Mm-hmm.
that regard. We do candidate training. We do some candidate recruitment. It's more candidate training, but we do some candidate recruitment just like we do people. If there's a vacuum there, particularly if you've got a good conservative, a leader there already, want to work on that, but if you're in areas that are maybe a little bit tougher than others, that's kind of my story.
Right.
Like I said, my area was heavily, Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
especially when I started. So we're doing a little bit of everything, but the foundation of it is Christ, and it's centered very much on the other peers of that, pro-life, pro-traditional family, the good, strong economy, but the family, and if the family is founded on that foundation of Christ, and we have leaders, we need leaders
Mm-hmm.
to actually represent that as well. So it's as if after I took that, God told me to be still. It's as if suddenly God sat down and said, all right, now what's the perfect role for Mike where he can travel the state, where he can talk to people, all his friends he made, and all those statewide races. So I'm loving it.
So,
Yeah.
so and with your travels, I have a great question because this was up in national news. You probably saw some of it yesterday. The trust, right? The Democratic Party is trying to get their feet under them because, in fact, they're quick to put up some of their most outspoken people because that is not representative of a lot of folks. I have Democratic friends, and they look at me and they're like, they shake their head when they watch some of these folks that get up and speak on behalf of the Democratic Party. Now, at a national level, of course, we all have our comments, right? But at the local level and the impacts, we have several Democrats that are in office. They've been in those offices for years, and they probably serve their communities well. I never want to bring derogatory comments to any human being.
Right.
But I do think we do cross wires when we talk about Christianity and some other things. And if you're willing to sacrifice certain things, you kind of get off the track on my book. But not to get into a debate about that, but how do Dems re-message themselves in Kentucky?
A long-time Democrat, but conservative Democrat. I think I saw somewhere today that she was actually one of the last ones that was, not last ones, but one of the last conservative ones that was switching to, I think, either Republican or Independent.
Right.
One of the things they have to do is
That's huge.
Return to their roots.
Mm-hmm.
And part of their roots was, let's just face it.
Mm-hmm.
They slowly and then quickly moved away from it. But
Yeah.
the Democrats that I knew when I first started, a lot of them were by
Yes.
Yeah, they've.
Working service. I had an
Yeah.
argument wasn't an argument. I had a strong discussion with some of my grandparents and friends who are long-term Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Who, when I was telling them, the Democrats are for, what they call pro-choice, but really it's pro-abortion. Because they don't want to have choice in others. And they're like, no, they're not for abortion. Democrats aren't for abortion. I was like, look at their platform.
I mean, it's in black and white.
It is.
That was one of the most effective things that the Republican Party did, especially on the local level, was to just basically put the two platforms up side by side so people could actually read it themselves.
And you can go to the Democratic Party website; it's very visible.
Yeah.
And it seems like they change theirs every year to re-message, and we've stayed consistent. But to your point, libertarian, right? So there's some that would say that even in the Republican Party, even though they still claim a Republican Party, they're very libertarian. There's a lot of concerns about Rand Paul being very libertarian in a lot of his comments, even though he represents the Republican Party. But I honestly think at what point does your diehardness and loyalty to the party let go when they get so far left or right that, right now I'm just focused, if you talked about the left, right? Not the left, not right, but left. If you talked about them, it's a trust factor. Like, the nation is very confused about trusting things that are said from the Democratic Party. Look what we just did with Joe Biden. I mean, and now they're writing books about Joe Biden and that he should have been removed, but yet you condemned anybody for bringing it up.
It was within 1 year, it went from, he's fine, to... Well,
not even that, 7 months ago.
Well, I mean... You think about, we're almost a year to the, we're coming up on a year at the debate.
Yeah.
So it's
true.
So we're looking at, so when you saw, once people see it, people saw it, but they chose to not believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was, they came out and said it was AI. They said it was that they were basically saying it wasn't. There was an episode of Friends one time that where the two of the characters, Rachel and Joey, had kissed or something, and somebody and Ross had walked in on them, and Rachel looked, and this is how the Democratic Party acted about Joe Biden. She just said, "We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't do anything." And he goes, and Joey's going, "Well, yeah. Well, what do you mean? He just saw us." And he goes, "Shh, we didn't do anything." And that's what they were doing
shushing.
They were just
no. And what's really tough is going forward, and I commend the critics within their own party that are busting them out and saying, "Hey, George Clooney, to take the courage to say, okay, that is not the same Biden I know," and had wrote a piece that went into the New York Times, I think it was, or the Washington Journal. I forget which one it was, but then they all turned against him. How dare you? Blah blah blah. You let out our secret. Oh no! Oh my gosh. There's an amendment that actually protects us from this problem, so that we know that the country is actually being led by the elected, not by the dejected. I don't know what they call it.
That is so much the worry that that we had. And now we're finding out, well, that worry was true, or at least it seems like it was true. It's becoming more and more true as everything comes out, that he was not running the country. He had support staff, and and each one of them had their own belief system. I think I saw an article the other day that there were at least three different people that were using the auto pen to sign.
That's scary. And I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, or I don't care who you are.
Yeah,
that is so wrong.
I mean, and now they're
it's like so wrong.
Now they're looking at, well, are all those pardons legal? Because if he didn't sign the pardon...
isn't that horrible? Because now his son could be eligible to be prosecuted because it's no longer pardoned.
The article wasn't really about his son, but obviously he's lumped into that, right? So that's probably the one that he did.
Things that Papa's POV could really address, right?
That's right. Papa's POV will cover all that to help you. If you doesn't do that, at least it'll hopefully make you laugh.
Or have a
Right?
or spur a conversation from another platform. That's what it's all about, right? Readers are leaders. I think it's excellent. You produced a book. What a great way to make use of your time. I liked your opening statement. You know, Jesus tells us to calm down and listen when we get the chance, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you put good energy in the right place.
And
We were blessed.
and Mike, I'm super happy that you're with Commonwealth Policy Center. Those are that's a great organization. They've been very, very helpful to us, not just as a local party, but just as a community. And we really appreciate all the work that they do. So I'm glad you're over there. Any last comment before we hang on here or hang up here?
You know, I just say thank you for having me on the show. You know, and so as well as others who do pop off
Mhm.
Mike Harmon. You know, there are within the book there are actually 14 different QR codes. One of them including the commercial. I don't know if y'all ever saw the commercial that actually Trump was in.
Mhm.
But he was calling me Mark Harmon instead of Mike Harmon. We did a really cute ad on that. But no, just thank you so much for having me on. You guys keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Enjoy traveling the state, talking to people.
Will you be sure to let us know when
Yeah.
you're back in Meade County
Yeah,
or surrounding?
We'll have you in studio next time. We can sit down and have a conversation. But Mike, it's been a great having you on. And don't be a stranger. Let's stay in touch. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, that's all we have for today, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We will let you guys go on that note. Please go out and buy Mike's book. It's available online at Amazon, and we're going to be picking it up. So,
MikeHarmon.com.
We got you. All right, thanks, Mike.
See you, everybody.
Test.